The cold isn't just in the air, it's in the marrow. Not the kind that nips at your fingers or paints the grass with frost, but the kind that seeps deeper, past flesh and bone, into the places where hope used to live. Winter. Winter is temporary. This is the chill of a life that stopped fighting. The quiet after the last sword falls. The hush that follows loss, thick and suffocating, like snow burying a battlefield. You don't just feel it, you become it. Your heart keeps time out of routine, not passion. Your lungs drag in air like it's a chore. That's the true cruelty of survival, when the world goes still, but you're forced to move through it. When the sun shines and your soul still shakes. When everything worth burning for has turned to ash. And you're left standing in the smoke, breathing it in, choking on the remains. Death would be a mercy. But you don't get mercy. You get mornings. You get empty hands and a full grave. You get to carry the cold with you, long after the war is over. I used to wear the title of warrior like a second skin. Now, it hangs off me like broken armor, ill-fitting, rusted, a relic of someone I barely recognize. What does it even mean to be a warrior when the battles are over? When the only thing left to fight is the silence? Back then, it was simple. We bled. We broke. We bore the weight of oaths that carved deeper than any blade. Our swords weren't just steel, they were promises. To stand. To shield. To pay the price so others wouldn't have to. We didn't weep where anyone could see. We didn't flinch when the arrows fell. We dug graves with our bare hands, spat dirt from our mouths, and marched on because the war didn't care about our sorrow. It only cared that we moved forward. But now the war is gone, and all that's left is the wreckage it made of me. I mourn the dead I couldn't cover with my shield. The ones whose names I whisper like prayers to gods who weren't listening. I mourn the man I was before the weight of all that loss hollowed me out. There was a fire in me once, not just rage, but something brighter. A belief that the fighting meant something. That the scars were worth it. Now I'm just a ghost with a heartbeat, tracing the outlines of who I used to be. The warmth is gone. The purpose is gone. All that's left is this, the knowing. That I survived when so many didn't. That I'm still here, breathing their air. Walking the paths they'll never take. And the cruelest part? I don't know if that makes me a warrior still. Or just a man who forgot how to stop fighting a war that's already dead. Have you ever stood surrounded by laughter and felt like a ghost? Watched life swirl around you while you remain frozen in some invisible current? That's the cruelest kind of loneliness, when your body occupies space but your soul has gone elsewhere. I know that hollowness like an old friend. The way your lips can form a smile while your eyes scream the truth. How you can open your mouth in a room full of people and still not be heard. I carry memories that would break most men. Fields that should have grown crops instead yielded corpses. Small hands that clutched mine not in play, but in final desperation. The terrible intimacy of pressing my lips to cooling skin, memorizing the shape of brows I knew would soon be dust. These moments live in my bones, in the way my hands sometimes shake for no reason, in the nightmares that come even when I'm awake, and yet, here I remain. A living monument to all that's been lost. I speak to phantoms now more than people, to the wind that carries no answers, to shadows that never speak back. The worst conversations are with the warrior I used to be. He pounds against the walls of my ribs like a caged animal, roaring at me to stand up, to fight on. But his voice grows fainter each day. The truth? I'm so tired I can taste it, a copper penny fatigue that never leaves my tongue. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that seeps into your marrow and rewrites your DNA. They don't tell you that survival isn't a victory, it's a sentence. That every breath you take is one stolen from the dead. The weight of that knowledge bends your spine until you're not sure if you're standing or just waiting to collapse. The mirror shows a stranger, someone whose eyes have seen too much, whose hands have done too much, whose heart has buried too much. And still that damned warrior inside whispers, not yet. Even when every fiber begs for rest, something primal won't let me surrender. Maybe that's the real curse, not the dying, but the relentless, excruciating privilege of continuing to live. People love to say that time heals, as if grief is just a wound that scabs over. As if pain has an expiration date. But they're wrong. Time doesn't heal. It's a thief, not a surgeon. It doesn't mend, it muffles. It shoves your agony into dusty corners where no one will see, where even you might forget, for a moment, that it's still there. But the ache never leaves. It just learns to live with you. You adapt, because what choice do you have? You walk differently, favoring the parts of you that never fully mended. You speak carefully, shaping words around the cracks in your voice, the ones that tremble when you least expect it. You even laugh again, or something like it. A hollow, breathy sound that doesn't reach your eyes. People mistake it for recovery. They don't realize it's just another kind of armor. Because that's the truth no one tells you, some wounds don't close. Some cold doesn't thaw. It settles in your bones, in the hollow of your chest, a frost no fire can touch. You carry it with you, this weight, this rusted second skin. It drags at your steps, makes every movement heavier than it should be. But you wear it anyway. Because the world doesn't reward vulnerability. It doesn't care about the battles you've survived, the blood still drying on your hands. It only cares that you stand tall, that you don't flinch, that you never let them see the fractures. So you learn. You learn to swallow the screams that rise in your throat. You learn to smile when you want to collapse. You learn to pretend that the past is just that, past, even when it lives in every breath you take. And maybe, in time, the act becomes so convincing that even you start to believe it. But then the wind shifts. A scent, a sound, a shadow where there shouldn't be one, and suddenly you're back there. In the blood, in the smoke, in the moment everything shattered. That's the cruelest joke of all. Not that time heals, but that it teaches you to hide the bleeding. And the loneliest part? You start to prefer it that way. Because at least this way, no one can see how badly you're still broken. Her eyes haunt me most in the quiet hours before dawn. Not as they were in life, bright, alive, full of fire, but as they were in that final moment, wide with fear, then empty. Gone. Just like the others. My brothers, whose laughter once filled the halls. My people, whose voices rose in song around the evening fires. All taken. All lost. And me? The one who swore to stand between them and death. I remain. The last witness. The living failure. Isn't that the cruelest joke of war? The shield survives, but those he protected do not. The hands meant to defend become the hands that bury. The oath meant to give purpose becomes the chain that binds you to a life you no longer recognize. There was a night, black as a fresh-dug grave, when I nearly followed them. Steel gleamed cold in my grip, trembling with the weight of my despair. The tears on my face felt like the first honest thing I'd felt in years. It would have been so easy. One motion. One surrender. But something stayed my hand. Perhaps it was cowardice, the fear of what might wait beyond. Perhaps it was guilt, knowing I didn't deserve the peace of oblivion when they had been granted no such mercy. Or perhaps it was the faintest echo of who I used to be, whispering through the storm, "Your story isn't finished." So I walked. Through years. Through seasons. Through landscapes that blurred together until everywhere looked like nowhere. Their names became my companions, not sweet remembrances, but weights tied to my ankles, dragging me deeper with each step. I cursed them. I cherished them. I drank to forget them and woke screaming their names. The world moved on. New wars were fought. New songs were sung. But I remained trapped in that moment, the survivor, the failure, the living monument to all that had been lost. My armor grew heavy with more than rust, it bore the patina of memory. The unshakable truth that some debts can never be repaid, only carried. And carry them I do. Every sunrise. Every battle. Every quiet moment when the wind sounds almost like familiar laughter. I carry them not as honored dead, but as ghosts who refuse to let me forget, because forgetting would be the final betrayal. Their eyes still watch. Their voices still whisper. And I remain. Not a hero. Not a victor. Just a man who should have died with his world. Every morning is a betrayal. The sun rises without permission, painting the sky in colors they'll never see. I wake, not because I want to, but because my body refuses to stop. Each step I take feels like dragging an entire graveyard behind me. Their names, their faces, their unfinished stories, they cling to me like shadows, growing heavier with every passing year. I used to despise the simple act of breathing. The steady rhythm of my heart was a taunt, a cruel reminder that my chest still rose and fell while theirs had gone still. I would press my hands against my ribs and wish for silence, for the mercy of stillness. But life is not so kind. It forces you forward even when every fiber of your being screams to stay buried in the past. Pain changes you. At first, it's a wildfire, consuming everything, leaving only ash in its wake. But with time, it becomes something else. A forge. A whetstone. It carves away the person you were and leaves behind someone harder, sharper. I didn't understand at first. I thought the agony was punishment for failing them. But now I see it differently. They are gone. I am not. That simple truth has become my compass. Perhaps survival isn't an accident, but a purpose. If I had fallen with them, who would remember the way her laughter could silence a room? Who would recall the way his eyes crinkled when he told a terrible joke? Who would speak their names and keep their stories alive? I am the last ember of a fire that once burned bright. The final echo of a battle cry that once shook the heavens. Every breath I take is a defiance against oblivion. Every scar I bear is a testament to what we were. The world tries to forget. Time smooths over edges, blurs faces, softens voices. But I remember. I remember the exact shade of her hair in sunlight. The particular way he rolled his shoulders before a fight. The lullabies sung in voices now silenced. This is my war now, not with sword and shield, but with memory and will. I am the keeper of their flame. The bearer of their truth. The living proof that they existed, that they loved, that they mattered. And so I rise each morning. I breathe each day. I carry them not as a burden, but as a banner. Let the world try to forget. I will remember enough for all of us. This is not the life I wanted. But it is the life I have. And until my last breath, I will make it count. For them. For me. For the unbroken chain of memory that stretches between the living and the dead. I am here. And that has to mean something. The steel felt foreign in my hands at first, cold, unfamiliar, like holding the hand of a stranger. It had been so long since I'd last sharpened it properly, since the whetstone had kissed its edge with pee. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't preparing for battle or vengeance. I was honing something far more dangerous, a reason to keep living. The metal caught the dim light as I worked, each stroke of the stone whispering against the blade like a secret. This weapon would never taste blood again, not if I could help it. Its purpose now was heavier than war. It was memory made physical, the weight of it in my hands a reminder of all I'd lost, all I'd survived. Every scrape of steel against stone was a promise, I will not forget. I know you're out there. I can feel it in the way my words catch in the air between us. You, who hides your shaking hands in pockets. You, who bites back screams in the shower where no one can hear. You, whose eyes are dry in public but flood the moment you're alone. I recognize you because I am you. We are the survivors, the ones who bear wounds that never fully close, who carry ghosts instead of comrades. Listen to me now, really listen, you do not have to be strong. The world will tell you otherwise. It will demand stoicism, will praise the quiet suffering of the broken. But I'm giving you permission to shatter. To howl. To collapse under the weight of it all. Just promise me one thing, promise you'll get back up. If your legs fail you, crawl. If your voice breaks, whisper. If your heart aches so badly you think it might stop, let it ache. But keep moving. Not for them, not for glory, but for the simple, revolutionary act of defiance that is continuing to exist when everything in you wants to fade away. Look what you've already survived. The nights that felt endless. The losses that carved canyons through your soul. The moments when death seemed kinder than waking up another day. You're still here. That isn't weakness, that's a fucking miracle. This blade at my side. It's not a weapon anymore. It's a compass. A reminder that even when we're lost, we can choose our direction. Yours might be a guitar string, a paintbrush, a child's hand to hold, it doesn't matter what form it takes. Find it. Hold on to it. Let it anchor you when the storms come. The cold will try to convince you there's no point. The silence will whisper that you're alone. Don't believe them. Every ragged breath you take is proof of your strength. Every tear you shed is evidence of your courage. I sharpened my blade to remember. Now I'm passing the whetstone to you. Hone your will. Polish your resolve. And keep walking, warrior. The world needs survivors like us, the kind who know the cost of living but choose to pay it anyway. True strength doesn't announce itself with thunderous proclamations or heroic gestures. It reveals itself in the quiet moments, in the shuddering inhale before getting out of bed when every bone screams to stay down, in the trembling hands that still manage to light the morning fire, in the voice that cracks but still speaks. I've learned this truth through scars, not sermons. The world mistakes loudness for power. It celebrates the unmarked and the untouched, the ones whose armor still shines with factory polish. But real warriors? We're the ones whose armor is dented beyond recognition, whose shields bear the marks of every blow they've stopped. Our strength isn't in never falling, it's in the way we drag ourselves upright for the 1000th time, long after the crowds have stopped cheering. I've seen strength in places most would call weakness, in the veteran who wakes screaming but still tends his garden, in the widow who wears her grief like a second skin yet bakes bread for neighbors, in the survivor who flinches at loud noises but still answers when called upon. These aren't broken people, they're reforged. The fire that was meant to destroy them instead tempered them into something more resilient. Their cracks aren't flaws, they're the places where the light gets in, where compassion took root in the ruins. You want to know what unstoppable looks like? It's the single mother working 3 jobs with eyes full of exhaustion but hands that never stop moving. It's the abuse survivor who still believes in love despite knowing its teeth. It's the soldier home from war who greets each sunrise as both burden and gift. This is the paradox of true resilience. The more you've been shattered, the more unbreakable you become. Each fracture line becomes a fault where new strength forms. The pain that was meant to erase you instead becomes your foundation. So when you see yourself in the mirror, tired, scarred, imperfect, don't mistake that for weakness. The easy road is giving up. The hard road, the holy road, it's putting one foot in front of the other when every step feels like betrayal. It's loving a world that has hurt you. It's continuing when stopping would be so much easier. That quiet voice inside you that whispers, keep going, even when your body begs to rest. That's not foolishness. That's the most powerful force in the universe, the human spirit refusing to surrender. You're not broken beyond repair. You're being rebuilt. And the person emerging from these fires, they'll be stronger than you can possibly imagine. The steel doesn't fit like it used to. Time has changed the shape of my shoulders, the set of my jaw, the way my body carries its history. I strap it on each morning not for battle, but for survival. These metal plates have become the scaffolding that keeps me upright when my bones want to buckle. The weight is familiar now, not of protection, but of remembrance. Every dent tells a story. Every scratch whispers a name. People ask why I still bother with the ritual of buckling greaves to legs that will never march to war again, of securing pauldrons over a heart that's been pierced too many times to count. They don't understand, this armor isn't for stopping blades anymore. It's for holding in the pieces. For keeping my shattered edges from spilling out across the floor when the memories come crashing in. The metal is cold against my skin, but that's all right. I've grown accustomed to the chill. The world is a graveyard with fresh paint. It moves on with brutal efficiency, paving over graves, turning battlefields into market squares, rewriting history until the fallen are just footnotes. It will take your sacrifices, your blood, your very soul, and ask for seconds before the first offering has even cooled. It doesn't care about your pain. It won't remember your tears. But I remember. I remember the exact pressure of a dying man's grip around my fingers. The particular way blood looks black under moonlight. The sound of a last breath escaping lips that will never speak again. These memories live in the spaces between my ribs, in the hollow of my throat, behind my eyes when I try to sleep. They are my companions now, not the living, not the dead, but the in-between. The armor helps. The ritual of strapping it on each morning is a promise. I will not disappear. I will not let them disappear. Their names are etched into the steel where no one else can see, not with ink, but with the relentless pressure of my remembering. Every morning when the buckles click into place, I whisper them again. Every night when I remove the plates, I count them like rosary beads. This is my covenant. The world may forget, but I will not. Time may fade, but I will preserve. The fire may dim, but I will feed the flames. I wear this armor not because I'm still a warrior, but because I'm the last witness. The final keeper of the stories. The living monument to what was lost. The steel may rust, the leather may crack, but the memories, they stay sharp. They stay bright. And so I rise each morning. I strap on my history. I bear the weight. Not for war. Not for glory. But for the sacred act of remembering. The armor stays. The names remain. The fire burns on, the chill never truly leaves you. It settles in your marrow, becomes part of your breath, lingers in the spaces between your heartbeats. Winter comes and goes, but this cold? This is different. It's the kind that no fire can touch, no blanket can smother. I used to fight it, used to rage against the unrelenting frost that lived inside me. Now I walk with it. The world expects survivors to thaw. To move on, as if grief has an expiration date, as if trauma is just a season that changes with the calendar. But some wounds don't heal, they become part of your geography. The scar tissue thickens. The nerve endings dull. And you learn to carry the weight because the alternative is to let it crush you entirely. I lift my chin now not because I'm unbroken, but because I've learned how to bear the fractures. The pain hasn't lessened, I've simply grown stronger where the breaks occurred. Some nights still stretch endlessly before me, hollow and echoing. Some mornings still dawn with the taste of ashes in my mouth. But I meet them anyway. Not as a conqueror, but as someone who has made a truce with the darkness. This is the truth they don't tell you about survival. Peace isn't the absence of war, but the courage to continue despite it. The luxury of true tranquility belongs to those who've never had to choose between their life and their soul. For the rest of us, there is only the marching. One foot, then the other. Again and again until the path becomes the purpose. I rise each day for the ones who can't. I remember because no one else will. I stoke the embers of memory into something that might, against all odds, resemble meaning. This isn't heroism. This isn't bravery. This is the simple, stubborn refusal to let the cold win. The world took everything. But it didn't take my will. It didn't take my voice. And so I speak their names into the wind. I carve their stories into my bones. I carry the fire because extinction is not an option. Let the winter come. Let the nights grow long. Let the world forget. I remember. I endure. I remain. Not whole. Not healed. But here. And sometimes, that's enough.